Hi, Somerset Sky Canyon Cardinals. Thank you for having me be a part of your virtual career day. And I'm excited to share with you my job. So my name is Veeda and I'm a children's book author. And I write for all ages, from the little ones to teens as well. So I'll first start off by showing you some of my books. Okay, so this is part of the Jake Maddox series. Jake Maddox, there's these books about sports, and so this book is called Courage on Ice, and it's about a girl who has a fall, and she has to have courage to get back up. And when I was writing this book, the publisher asked me to be a part of the series and to write it. And I'm not a really good ice skater, so I had to do some research. So I don't really know how to ice skate very well or do competitive skating, but I do know how to get back up after a fall. So one thing with books is that you may not, have that exact experience of being a skater, but I have that same emotion of having to dig deep, like my main character Eva did. Okay, and then my next book is part of the Girls Survive series. Are you all familiar with the I Survive series about, kids who lived through these really historical events? Well, there's a series called Girls Survive, and it's about girls who also go through these, real historical events in time. And so I was hired to write this book about a girl who survives the 1906 earthquake in San Francisco. And so Lily has to help her brother, get to safety, and this is a really fun one to write and research. And then I also have a book with the Smithsonian. They have a series for kids, and it's about historical fiction. And this book is called Lee on Angel Island, and it's about a girl who has her experiences when she journeys to the United States and has to stop at Angel Island, which is an immigration center. And then my last one I have out here it's a young adult book, which means it's for kids 14 and up. And this is an anthology. So an anthology is a collection. So these are all short stories written by 15 different authors, and I was one of them. And these are stories about growing up in rural areas, which are small towns. And so I have a short story and a graphic novel short story in this book. And this is my most recent one. It came out October 2020. So I'm gonna just answer a couple of questions that I usually get during visits when I talk to kids, and I hope that it helps you as you're thinking about your different careers. So one question I get asked a lot is when did you know you wanted to be an author? And I did not like reading when I was a kid. It took me a couple of years into school. So kindergarten and first grade, I just didn't like books at all. I didn't find them to be fun, and it was a kind of a chore. My mom made me do it. And so she signed me up to go to the library during the summertime. We had these summer reading group programs. Have you guys ever done them yourselves? So I had to do the summer reading program, and I had to pick out different books. And one of the books I picked out was a book called Ramona the Brave by Beverly Cleary. Maybe you're familiar with that. But this book changed how I felt about books of all kinds. And I actually have a copy of my copy from when I was a kid. It's Ramona the Pest. And so do you see how old it is? It's, I'm kind of old. But I just love this character Ramona so much. I thought she was just the coolest kid, and she was so spunky, and she just stood up for things that weren't fair. I really wanted to be like her. And so I found this book after a couple of years of reading, and it really spoke to me. So I really do believe that there's a book out there for you, if you don't like reading it, that will speak to you too. And the great thing about children's books is that there's just so many these days, but from graphic novels to fantasy books to contemporary books like Ramona, that I think that all kids can find something that they like. And then you can ask your teacher, you can ask your librarians for help, and I'm really grateful I found this one. So, but even though I actually became a big reader after this, I would always read after I finally discovered a book that really spoke to me. But I didn't know I wanted to be an author until I was much older. So I went to college, and I majored in a major called print journalism, which is where I studied newspapers. And it was such a good writing experience. And so I actually wrote and worked for newspapers and magazines after school. And I have always just really liked writing, but it wasn't until I became a mom that I thought, I think I would really like to I think I'd like to go back to the books that really made me who I was as a kid and write children's books. So I started that about 10 years ago. And so it's been a long journey, but it's been one that has been really fulfilling. So it took me a really long time, but I'm really glad for it. And another question I get about books is how long it takes to write books. People, kids want to know, how long does it take to write a book? And it really all depends on the project. I have had books that have taken me years to write that have never sold, or I have books that have taken me a couple months to write. That have been published very quickly. So it all depends. But these books here, these are fairly short. But I took about a few months writing each of them. But I had to go and work on them a few different times with my editor. And you guys may have heard the terms editors before, but when I write something, it's not going to be perfect the first time. I have to go through many rounds of revision, and they just help me make it better. So being an author is not a solitary thing. It's not something I do on my own. Even though my name's on the front cover here, there's still like a whole team of people that help make the book what it is and better. Like there's an art director who lays out the pages. I'll open it here so you can kind of and there's this one's illustrated so you can see the illustrations, and the editor helps me give suggestions on like what can make the book better or a faster pace. And I'm actually going to share with you a past page of this. This is my graphic novel that I was talking about in my young adult collection. And so over here you can see the art director is giving me some notes, and she's basically telling me like, oh, all these panels here, it'd be helpful if they're all in the same panel, so she says like, maybe consider merging the two bottom panels into one scene, and then she says, maybe, also have the people look at each other, because this is my first time trying to do a graphic novel, so it's so helpful to know like what makes a graphic novel page really stand out. So that's my sketch there. You can kind of see, you can see like I have blue lines because it's just a sketch, just the draft. And then I'll show you the final work here. All right, and so this is the final picture there, and you can see that I merged all those ones together, and so I made a different panel. And I think it looks really well. And so, it's really good that I get to have this team of people I work with to make the books the best that they can be. Okay, I'm also asked, where do I get my ideas from? And I get ideas from everywhere, So I'll show you, oops. I have all these things to show you here, so it's kind of fun since I'm at home. Okay, so I keep a lot of notebooks. Ta-da! And I just jot down things, like I'll just jot down random words that I'll think of from stories. And I often feel that sometimes when I need a really good idea, when I have some good ideas, is when my mind is quiet or I'm around quietness. So I would suggest, see what being around quiet will do for you. Like don't always, well, I shouldn't say don't always, but try to unplug sometimes. Like, video games is fun, music is fun, but having quietness around you, you'll be kind of surprised at the things that your own mind will generate and the ideas that you have. So I have a lot of notebooks here. I also have, different tools I use for writing. So this is my iPad, my Apple Pencil. This is what the graphic novel was done digitally, so I drew on this digitally. I love sticky notes, and so I actually will plot out my book. I'll show the outline of the story using sticky notes, and so I have a whole wall in my room that just has sticky notes all over it with different ideas. So I have sticky notes, I like Sharpies a lot, I have my computer. Okay, and a question I also am asked is what is my work schedule like? So I work at home, and I have to be very flexible because I'm a mom, and I have to be there for the kids while we're doing things at home, and just being flexible during this time. So I just work whenever I can. I'll even bring my computer up and I'll work during the carpool line when I'm picking kids up from school. Or, mostly it seems like I'm working a lot at night when things are mostly taken care of during the day, and I can have a couple of hours to sit down and write. But there's nothing more motivating than a deadline. So I actually have a project under contract right now that is due, my second draft is due in a couple weeks, and so I'm racing to get that done. So that's been a really good thing to get me going, because if I had all the time in the world, I think I would just be like, I'll just turn it in whenever. Okay, and I think my last question I'm gonna ask here is sometimes I get asked, is writing hard? And I am going to say it is very hard. It's hard to put yourself out there in your words. And so to be traditionally published, like to be published through a publisher that can get books into schools and libraries, you have to have a literary agent, and will sell your work to a publisher. And so I'm a freelance worker essentially. Like I don't work for a company. I have to sell my work. So that means I'm kind of doing this on my own. I have had someone to represent me. So I'm going to show you this roll here. These are all, well, they're not all, but these are a majority of letters I've written, and I've laminated them so I can have them so I can remember how hard I worked to do this. But these are rejection letters pretty much. These are all the letters that when I was looking for an agent that people sent me and said, no thank you, I'll pass. So so other authors to do this, they have this rejection roll so they can just kind of show people how that yeah, I had to send my stuff out and I had a lot of no's, but eventually I did get a yes. And so these are about 75 of them. I actually have more, but some of them, so I never heard back from some of them. And so when I've gone to school visits, I'll actually like roll this out and you'll see it like go all the way across the room. And I think kids like to see like, oh my gosh, this many people said no to you. But, how many books do I have out now? And I have more that are coming. So while it is hard and, you do get a lot of no's, but you can also get, yeses, and you just have to keep going and keep getting better. And I actually went back to school and I got a master's degree in creative writing for kids because it was that hard and I knew I needed to improve myself even more. So I surround myself with things that make me happy when I write. Like I have good smelling candles that, I'll burn so I can have nice smell, this nice aroma. I'll have lots of chocolate next to me, and you can see this bag is kind of a big bag and it's already kind of empty, so that's kind of embarrassing. But I also have, caffeine to keep me going during the day too. And I have lots of really good writer friends that we, give each other encouragement and advice. So I just want to leave you with, just the idea that whatever job you choose or, whatever things you feel motivated to do, just to keep going and not give up. And, sometimes the best ideas come when you have to start over again. And that's happened to me during my career. And it's been really fun to see, like, even though I have had some no's, I've had, all it needs to do is you just can have like, one yes, and then you'll get to make that something that's really beautiful. So thanks so much for letting me be a part of your career day, and I hope you guys have a great time listening to all our presentations. Bye-bye.